Hello and welcome back to the Full 40 with Chris. Or Chris isn't here with Willie, Trevor, and Brian's throwing me off by Brian being in here.
I'm staying.
I was like, Brian, you're on here. What are you here for?
I wasn't going to warn you.
The only Emmy nominated podcast in the Villanova sphere. This week we've been nominated for an Emmy for not really watching the Oscars. Did any of you guys watch the Oscars?
I've been seeing some clips.
Oh, I saw Selena Gomez. She looked great.
I saw that Ben Stiller was tweeting about the Nova Knicks directly after getting off stage from presenting an award or something.
That's real sports fandom.
Yeah. Did Wicked win the Oscar?
I don't know who won. I stopped. I watched like 2 awards, and then I said, "I'm gonna."
And I didn't watch anything.
I'll look that up while we're talking.
Wicked won something, but I don't know if it won like Best Picture or anything like that.
I don't think it won what they wanted to win.
Kieran Culkin did well, I've heard.
I saw his clip. Yeah, he won. And in secession fashion, he thanked Jeremy Strong. And Jeremy
Aurora
Strong
won for Best Picture.
I don't even know what that movie is.
It has Adrian Brody, so I assume he is some sort of Jewish person during World War II. Because that's him in every movie. He's like a.
I saw something. This will kind of maybe hope to get us back on track towards sports, but I did see a tweet that Adrian Brody is the Eli Manning of the actor world. He has 2 Oscar wins on 2 nominations. So Eli 2 Super Bowls on 2 appearances, and then just like a spew of Wes Anderson films and direct to DVD releases that just nobody has seen. So
and Showtime.
Okay.
The Lakers. The Lakers. He played Jerry. Pat
yeah.
With Villanova basketball legend Darryl Reynolds.
Yes.
There we go. We made it back to Villanova basketball from the Oscars.
Big winner.
I was gonna go with like you can't spell elite without Eli, and then go to like what you can spell elite without is Villanova, and then go down that path. That was how I was gonna shoehorn us in. This was better. This was better, without a doubt.
Yeah. Fortunately, we edit this show heavily, so no one will hear this part.
I will take that out in post.
Anyway, we had a basketball game over the weekend that we won.
I guess. Like,
well, I mean, we did win it.
We did, but like, we had 2 games since we last talked: Seton Hall and Butler.
Oh, right. I forgot about Seton Hall.
Yeah, because we tried to forget that one because it was, this is over, thank God. And then also like, but you don't want to lose to Seton Hall because no one wants to lose. And then Eric took over in the second half. Let's just broad stroke say that. And then the Butler game where we kind of just led wire to wire basically, and everyone kind of played.
And like there were moments in both that I was like, "Oh, are we about to do this?" Meaning blow the lead, which the Butler game got tied, I think, or Butler even took the lead at one point, or they were within 1. I can't remember. Late in that second half,
it got tied. No, they had the lead at one point.
They did have the lead, yeah. So I think we're okay not talking about Seton Hall game because I'm pretty sure that was the worst basketball game broadcast on TV this season, after maybe the trying to think another game we participated in that was really bad.
The UVA game.
UVA, well, that was good for UVA fans at least. I don't know.
That's true.
But this was a miserable basketball game. So I'm good with just Butler was more fun to talk about, at least. Like, made crazy shots. Dumont had a chase down block.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan, LeBron James. You have company. His name's Jordan Dumont. He's from Canada.
Dumont was, he was fun that Butler game. I love how we're starting with Dumont, but like, not fun in terms of like he was just doing useful stuff. Like, which is
nice to see him get minutes as a second-year player for sure.
So, and this is kind of a trend for all of the guys that take that seventh man spot. It seems like whoever it is, Mosley, Dumont, Chris Parker earlier in the year, they all get out there and do something positive usually, and find themselves in the right place at the wrong time and are opportunistic with the chances that they get. but it's just kind of weird how how that rotation has gone.
It's been a sub rotation.
When you like you said, you notice them when they're on the floor, and it's not as many minutes as you might be like, oh, did so and so play?
Yeah,
because they might have played 30 minutes, you didn't notice them. You always notice those three guys.
Yeah, like I don't know if Mosley played on set. I only got the second half of the game, so
he must have gotten on the floor because his like stats are pulling up, but like I don't think he like played more than him. Like it must have been garbage time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I don't know. It's odd that this is like the way that things have gone, where it's like, okay, Parker, get in there early in the season. Mosley was in there earlier in the season. I know Parker got sick and Mosley got hurt a little bit, or he missed a game because he was like, they both had like the flu or something. And then I think the Creighton game was when Dumont got to get dusted off, and he's played, I think, in every game since the Creighton game at home.
Okay, interesting.
I think so. I'm looking right now to give you an answer on that. Yeah, he's played in every game since then. He played in Marquette for a minute before the game before that, but then every game since then he's played. And the last
the Creighton game was I think the first one that he actually like logged some stats other than like a shot attempt.
Yeah, he had 14 minutes in that one. And his last three, he's played 16, 14, and 12 minutes.
Yeah, so good for Jordan. It's fun to see. I know I'm gonna take this like backwards from our script. It's fun to see Jordan getting some time and some burn, especially given the situation that we have looking at our roster potentially for next year. We were probably going to talk about this at the end of the show, but as it stands right now, we have one high schooler coming in, right? One.
Yeah, Dante Allen.
Matthew Hodge, if he gets his eligibility back, will count as a redshirt freshman next year. And then currently on the roster, you have Mosley Dumont. Is Nana Njoku
he could do it this year, but he's a senior.
Yeah.
He can be back.
Perkins.
Thomas Perkins.
Jordan Martino can come back.
Jordan can.
He's a senior, just like Nana, same recruiting class.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Trust me, Willie. Because he's the same recruiting class.
Class of 2020.
I just watching Willie's face right now.
Didn't the extra year of eligibility pop after that season, though?
He was a freshman in the Final Four year.
Yeah.
I had this debate recently, which is why I'm so confident. Like I would feel like you felt.
Yeah.
What's funny is I don't remember Nana being on that Final Four team.
Well, he was a redshirt.
Yeah. And Brizzy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeez,
heck of a class. Breezy, Longino, and Njoku. And who else was thrown in there?
There was one more that
Trey Patterson.
Yeah, let's try.
Yeah, but got there early.
Heck of a class. Yeah.
I mean, they broke the 20-point barrier this year, which is that's crazy. With seniors.
The 20-point barrier being a single person from that class scoring over 20 points.
When that hit me, I didn't double check it. Luckily, it was the case because all I knew is I only had to check Jordan. I was like, Jordan's the only guy who may have scored 20.
Right. But no, Jordan is playing the best basketball of his career, which is nice. He would then have the potential to come back.
That changes.
It changes what we thought before we had this conversation when we were like, okay, all of our scoring's gone. All of our minutes are gone.
And also the conversation most people don't always have is not everyone necessarily wants to. So people always assume everybody wants to do it. We don't know that. We don't know if he does or doesn't. Right.
There's no indication one way or another, but we will cards on the tea leaves, so to speak. He's not going to the NBA. You would think that Villanova is in a better position to give him the financial capital that he's searching for. I know any other school can throw a bag at him, but he has the relationship. He's been here for this long already. Maybe I want to go play somewhere else.
You've done 4 years of college.
Yeah.
Remember, all your friends or non-basketball players are leaving. Like
that's a big part of it. Is where you come back and then it's like, wait, everyone outside of the basketball program that I know, it's gone now.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what am I really doing?
Yeah. So
it's just something you rarely hear considered, and I do think it's like it shouldn't shock somebody if a player doesn't opt to play a 5th year, especially at the same school.
Yeah.
In this day and age, yes.
Yep.
I agree with you completely. Jordan didn't redshirt at all, did he?
No, he ended up playing, and
because he played enough games before he got shut down his freshman year. Yeah.
Well, he only got shut down in the tournament.
Yeah.
His first game he missed was it Delaware?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And they kind of like didn't make a big deal about it. I remember it was like it was mid game where they're like, "Oh, he got surgery today." You're like, "Wait, what?"
Like, on game day?
Yeah, you're like he didn't travel. And it actually felt like it was going to be a bigger deal than it ended up being. And then obviously Justin Moore
that over so yeah.
So there are we're kind of talking out of order here, but yeah, there's a lot of opportunity for people to score a lot of points for Villanova next year.
And that's the thing. So as we look at the roster makeup, it would be either you're hoping for Jordan, Josiah, Chris, Dumont, Sasha to take more of a leap scoring wise. We also know that it's not a complete roster. We have 1 freshman coming in, 2 if you count Hodge.
If he's eligible, that's the other thing.
Yeah,
I don't even know if he's allowed to play.
So I think this is the punishment is this year. I do think.
Yeah, I think this is the punishment.
All right. Okay. I have no idea.
So, like realistically, like let's say we're not going to expect Mosley to go from a 2-point a game person to a 13-point a game person. That's not.
All these guys we're talking about going from like 8 minutes a game to, hey, you're going to be playing 20 minutes.
Yeah. So the people who are on the roster who can be back that you're asking that for are Perkins and Longino to do that more if they can be back. If they can do that, and just realistically, we're gonna have to have another big portal time. Otherwise, there's just no scoring on the roster. And obviously, there's the whole entire side conversation of is Kyle going to be coaching the team, which like actually from a roster management standpoint makes things very interesting. Of like we can't have I don't know when the portal opens. I think it opens like next week.
I'm gonna look it up. It's short.
Yeah, it's like right when the season.
That's just to declare.
To declare, but to get out of it.
So here's the thing: if I probably should have let you finish your thought, but like if Kyle gets fired or leaves, I don't know. Well, is it different if the coach leaves on his own versus getting fired? Like Tony Bennett leaving the portal open for those kids?
It's just being the coach.
Yeah,
so it's March 24th to April 22nd this year.
Yeah. So if Kyle is not the coach on the morning of the 23rd, the roster has the opportunity to enter the portal if they hadn't already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just like that throws a wrench into this. Hearing that it's the 24th is a little bit better because in theory we will know in 2 weeks where we're at. Like I think we kind of know where we're at right now, but like let's give ourselves the 2 weeks. We have 2 weeks till we know where we're at. But like this is on the administration basically is what I'm getting at, to make a quick decision and not drag it out. And it's not just a quick decision on what to do with Kyle, but then it's also
a quick hire. Yeah.
It's a quick hire, that's a tough thing to ask, but like it's kind of what they're gonna have to do. The search should be starting now, or should have been starting like a month ago, where you're putting out the few. Where once you were officially done with Kyle, which. For me was the Georgetown game, but like maybe the administration it's still not done. Who knows? But like once that decision is made, the feelers need to be going out because you were going to be playing behind the 8 ball to not only the portal rosters and getting a good team together to be just in the mix for the best players, but then also, as we've noted, UNC, Indiana, other programs that could go poach a coach that you might be interested in.
Yeah, like obviously we have a GM who's in charge of roster construction more so than anything else, but like who's going to commit to a school without a coach?
Yeah.
Without a coach, like and who's to say will have any staff. Like, this
the other
could be a clear house situation. I don't know how common. I know we've probably talked about this before, but I don't know how common it is in college basketball that when a head coach gets fired, like if the staff is retained or if the staff kind of goes with the coach or not.
It's usually going with the coach because it's such a small staff, whereas college football, it's more often that guys will stay.
Yeah.
Because the relationships are just so much tighter.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of college football coaches who talk to the head coach once a month. Versus college basketball, there's 4 of them.
I'd imagine anybody who would stay would be, or has been, or would be kind of pulled more to the GM side of things and be like the operations side of the basketball program, where it's like, no, it doesn't matter what you're doing. This person's here because they do our hotels or whatever you want to call it, whatever it is like that. That will probably be, that person's probably staying. But anybody that has anything to do with the 90
you go from being an assistant coach to the assistant to the traveling secretary.
Think about it. Also will depend. Are you getting an established head coach who has connections, who's built staffs before? Or are you getting a young guy? If you're getting a young guy, it might be easier to be like, hey, you get 4 coaches, we'll retain 2 for you, and you bring 1 or 2. Like, just it's weird to not know which direction the school wants to go.
Yeah.
Do we want an established head coach, proven head coach? Do we want a up and coming person? I think if we all knew Jay Wright was retiring, we would have said we want a young coach at that time. That would have been a given.
Yep.
But
now not this one.
Yeah, it's not a given right now to me, and that's where I think the staff construction is.
This is the most interesting thing to happen to the program. Well, this season for sure, but like there has not been a national search for a head coach in 26 years, like or 20 whenever Jay was hired. Yeah, 26, 27 years.
And was that really national?
And that's the next thing.
They went next door,
and it wasn't that national, and they kind of knew their guy ahead of time. But it was more of a.
He had
search.
previously worked there.
Yeah, it wasn't the Sean's tweeting, Jay's gone, and then the next tweet, and Kyle Neptune's the coach, and you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Oh, what a day that was. So yeah, there's just a lot of interesting things that are up in the air in the roster outlook. We're gonna see. We don't know who's in the portal. We don't know, but it's just a thing that as we think about this team for next year, which I think we're all starting to be like, what does the next year look like? That's a thing that we need to figure out. Not just the coach, but we need to replace Eric Dixon, Wooga Poplar, Jameer Brickett's scoring. Maybe Longino and Perkins take enough to take like 30 to 40% of it more. Like let's at the highest. I'm saying that's like the best case, but realistically,
I know.
We're going to need to replace that.
That's asking like 9 point per game scorers to go to 18.
Exactly.
Each.
That's what. So it's just like, yeah, it's unlikely. So
is there a Hunter Dickinson type in the portal this year? Do you think? Meaning big name star stays in college.
It's hard. Like
I guess the stars.
I don't follow other teams closely enough before. Like once the tournament starts, you'll start hearing all these names and be like, okay, well, this guy's a junior or a senior that is going to carry his team in the tournament, but probably, doesn't have a draft, selection ahead of him. And then that's kind of when that stuff shakes out.
And it also depends on like who. Yeah, I would say that. And it's also like because a lot of them I would say tend to be smaller school guys that are putting up a lot of points in the up level. So like you can like look at them, but it's like, does like a Donovan Dent at New Mexico, who's like averaging 20 a game, does he want to transfer? Like he would never come to Villanova. He's not from the area. I would be shocked if he came. But like, just does he want to transfer and go someplace else, or is he trying to continue to stay at New Mexico, which is a great program? So like, there's no real reason to leave. So it's tough to say at this stage. To Trevor's point, we will start hearing in a week, like realistically, who's gonna be bouncing. But speaking of bouncing, I'm working on these transitions. Eric Dixon's been bouncing the ball into the hoop at a higher clip the last 2 games. Come on, anybody?
I didn't think you were gonna go there, but
it's not like bouncing out of the. Yeah, I mean, I like you.
Speaking of bouncing, Dante almost had the greatest assist of the year the other night. I thought that's where you were going to go with that. Dante DiVincenzo had like a bounce pass alley-oop that
insane decision in the
Bradley Beal blew it up with a flagrant one, shoving Anthony Edwards in midair.
Truly robbed us of one of probably the greatest highlights of all time in a live NBA game.
It would that's Dante DiVincenzo's career would have been tied to that clip forever. It'd be like, oh yeah, he had 31 off the bench and won a championship. Also, look at this sick alley-oop he had. But yeah, that got ruined. I thought that's where you're going with bouncing.
No.
But yeah, so Eric Dixon, just when you thought it was out of reach, drops 30 in back-to-back games.
Pull me back in.
Yes. So he is now within 60 points of Kerry Kittle's scoring record. And we have at least 2 games left. We have Georgetown on Wednesday. Wednesday?
Tomorrow. Tuesday.
Oh, tomorrow?
Yeah.
I got to get a tweet ready. We have Georgetown tomorrow, and then at least the opening round of the Big East tournament.
All right.
So
if he gets 3 games, he's going to break it. And I'm saying if as in because like we could lose to in the first round, and then he decides he's not going to play in the crown and he doesn't break it.
right.
But if the fact that he's 3 games away, I'm imagining he's going to go for it and break it. Like
Agreed.
You're 3 games away. Like just do what you've been doing all season for 3 games. You're going to go break it.
He broke a different record against Butler. I believe he passed Colin Gillespie as as most games played in Villanova history.
Did he hit 150?
He's at like 156.
Oh, Phil was at 147.
Phil was the last
Yeah.
true winner of this award, just because
Oh, non-fifth year,
sixth year, But you know what? Yeah, I mean, they don't count games you redshirt, obviously, but Phil did it in 4 years.
Yeah,
4.5.
4 years and 2 games. Yeah. But yeah, so Eric broke that record over the weekend, and we'll extend it. I think he goes for it. I know he hasn't played in the NIT. Or no, he did play in the NIT, didn't he?
Does he?
Justin and Cam that didn't play 2 years ago, and I believe everybody, including
everyone.
Did Eric play last year?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
would have remembered if he didn't. I'm pretty sure Justin.
I think Justin did play in that game.
He did, because I remember being like, "Oh, that's weird."
Yeah.
I'm just gonna look at the box.
I think everybody played in the VCU.
Okay. Yeah, it would be
VCU.
VCU, which John Rothstein thinks they can win the tournament this year. Carried by Max Shulga, who was a Villanova Wildcat on paper for like a month.
Eric Dixon had 21 in the NIT last year.
Yeah. Okay.
Shulga had 10. Well, not very good.
Yeah.
Burton, Dixon, Armstrong, Bamba, Moore. They all played. None of them played well, but they all played.
Yeah.
Hausen was 9 off the bench. That's my boy. 3 for 8 from the arc.
So, we're saying NIT, but in all likelihood, the Crown is this tournament that Fox is sponsoring.
Can you walk me through what that is?
So the Crown is a postseason tournament sponsored by Fox, and I'm pretty sure they're just they're inviting the top 2 teams from each conference that did not make the NCAA tournament.
Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So for looking at the Big East, we're expecting St. John's, Marquette, Creighton, UConn.
They're
our top 4 to be
4 teams.
Xavier has a chance of getting in.
Xavier has a chance, just like Villanova has a chance. Xavier a little bit more than Villanova.
Yeah.
But I was saying right now, all of the the bubble watch and stuff like that, graphics that they've been putting up for our games have Xavier and Nova with the little crown invite next to them, because we're expecting them not to make the tournament, and then that versus an NIT invitation, we're going to go. You would imagine that Big East schools will go with the broadcast partner
tournament.
I
don't even know if they really have a choice.
I don't either, but I didn't look. So that's in Vegas, I'm pretty sure, the whole tournament. So we'll be able to check the court before the but the opener next year against BYU.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Does
Also in Vegas.
Eric Dixon break it in the next 2 games?
No.
Okay.
And he
So
could
he's
score 30.
59 away. If he has, we'll be able to answer that tomorrow probably.
Yeah, but yeah,
I don't think it's not an unreasonable question.
Shooting your shot right now. Like, does
I'll say yes. He breaks it in the first game in the Big East tournament. Okay. I'm gonna say yes because I think you guys are leaning no.
If you're wrong, I'm gonna roast you.
Yeah, write it down. No, it's okay. Here's my thinking, and this will get us into Georgetown a little bit, but yeah, Thomas Sorber's out.
Mm-hmm.
So there, I can't remember truthfully if he was the one guarding Eric most of the time during that game, but like their best front court player is out of the game, so that automatically has to make things easier for Eric. No.
So the person who was guarding Eric was actually Micah Peavy a lot of the time.
I knew that. Come on.
Yeah, and Peavy also was kind of the one who was roasting us. So they still have their answer, but to be like their offense is run through Sorber, and I think Sorber went out like 3-5 games ago, and they're like 4-5 in their last, like in terms of losing. So there's 1 out of 5 in their last like 5 games. I can't remember when exactly he got hurt, but it was like around Valentine's Day that he was out. And their offense is kind of stagnated without him. He's been a great offensive hub for them. He's been an impressive freshman.
I know he's not their defensive anchor, but
no, he's not the defensive anchor, but like offensively, it's going to work around him. And frankly, they got back in the game because they started playing versus us because their offense started clicking. And we decided to punt the ball across the stands every single possession we had it. They have it like I'm looking at not Ken Palm, but Bar T rank. They have us as a 2-point favorite. So like they're not expecting much. And Micah Peavy really, really played us well. I can't remember what exactly he had. I want to say it was like 24. Oh, 24. Yep. He had 24 versus us. And like we had no answer for him down the stretch. So I'm imagining we now have him top of the scout because Sorber's not there. And generally, I would say, even under the count up scenario, we've done a pretty good job of taking away the best option on the floor. And then it's the other options that kill us after that. But
yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just think he'll have a big game against Georgetown. Like he has leaned forward in the chair. That meme.
Oh no, he completely has.
Yeah, these last couple games because I really thought after Providence, I was like, well, he's not going to get this record.
That's what we talked about up there. Yeah, we were like, probably a wrap.
Yeah, but he is leaned forward in the chair and locked in, and back-to-back 30-point games. Plus, he's rebounding the ball again. He had, I think, 10 against Seton Hall and 9 or 8 against Butler. So, yeah, he is. He's still rocking and rolling. I think he gets there.
Yeah,
because most likely matchup for the Big East tournament, I think, is DePaul for us.
And that's the next thing of okay. So it's Georgetown, who he put up. What did he put up versus Georgetown? Just so I can 29 in the loss.
Yeah.
So even with Sorber, they didn't really have an answer. And then DePaul, he did put up 14 in the terrible game, and then 25 in the other one.
Yeah. So he's 59 from tying. I think he gets there in the DePaul game.
I think he gets there. I think
maybe that DePaul game gets a little overtime and extra basketball for Eric Dixon.
What if we beat them on a buzzer beater 3 and it's Dixon instead of Justin? It's like the same, like we miss a bunch of baskets down the stretch, like the game's falling apart, and then we win it.
Oh my God. And then we all don't know what to do because we won the game, but at what cost?
That was the first time that like most people, I was kind of moved on already. Most people agreed with me, but it was so funny coming after a Big East tournament win.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That was
I remember saying to you guys, I was like, that's the defining play of his career. And I was like, what is it? It was like, he had a steal sophomore. It was a bummer because it was like, it was a great play. He made like a great play before. Like, it was like, yeah. But you watch it and you're like, great. We got a game tomorrow now. I think we lost by 100. I don't remember who we played. Probably Creighton.
I think it was Creighton.
I think we played Creighton more than
or Marquette. One of those two.
They're the same.
Yeah.
And Butler kind of like is in there too. For me, same
Midwest.
type of team.
All the Big East schools, yeah.
No, because like Xavier's not the same to me. Like they are themselves. Xavier and Providence are the same to me, actually. So never mind.
That's actually a fun exercise.
Because the black jerseys.
We should do it at a later
Okay,
time.
I get that, but I was gonna say like usually you would blend like Xavier and Butler together. Just
Geography.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of maps, though. I don't.
Yeah, Brian's not great with maps. Anyway, we can do. Let's talk about home field really quick, and then we can give out our awards from the Butler Seton Hall game. So, just in time for March, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody listening, home field has a new Villanova drop. We have new hoodies, t-shirts, long sleeve, all with a mixture of the 90s throwback, 85 throwback. Very cool stuff available to all at homefieldapparel.com. Use code Nova Insider for 15% off your first purchase. We have other Big East schools with new drops as well. So if you're a rival fan listening in, trying to get some much needed insight on your upcoming game with Villanova, this one's for you. Use code Nova Insider 15% off.
I'm disappointed in everybody. I'm looking right now. None of these are sold out. What the hell?
No, but they did add they added new
added
colorways for the hoodie and
they did? I didn't click the color.
Yeah, they had. So that hoodie had been there before, I thought, but now it's in navy, which is cool. Oh, they had it was a t-shirt, now it's a hoodie.
Okay, I was like,
but yeah, check out the merch. It's some cool stuff. I am upset that I used the gift card early in the year. And I have all this,
oh my God, I have the gift card.
You have a gift card. Yeah. Now I have all this stuff that I want to buy. So I will
gift cards?
I will be using code Nova Insider for 15% off my purchase.
I want a gift card.
Yeah, we can talk gift cards after.
Do you guys have my number?
Anyway,
no.
We have some awards to give out because positive basketball was played over the last week. I want to give my I'm torn on a couple of different Shaq Fit Man Play nominations. Like we talked about Dumont's block. Dixon had a grown man dunk. He doesn't dunk the ball very much. So that was exciting. Help me out. What else did Wooga have a breakaway slam? So let's see other nominations here. It's Oscar season.
Yeah, my Oscar goes to, I think I don't have a play, but it was, well, actually, no, I do. Brickus' deep three. He took a very deep three where I don't know.
It was aligned with the end of the logo.
It was the end of the logo three. It was a very deep three. And that was just part of us being in that flow. And I was like, oh, this is fun.
That was the Marquette game, no?
No, he also did it versus Butler.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, definitely versus Butler because Marquette I watched later.
Okay.
But I wasn't live watching. I was live watching Butler. So that's my thing. Just I want to give Brickus a little shout out for that one. We didn't have anything that really sticks out in terms, at least that I can think of off the top of my head, that really stuck out as a huge play that we did. Besides,
there was almost a this is Villanova basketball sequence. There was a clip going around that reminded, broken play, loose ball. That reminded me of that. Now,
do you remember the vibes at that moment? The vibes were immaculate. I know it was silly, but that was a great time.
I was the only one.
You were the only one who was upset.
We were in the arena watching the game, and Brian was probably already angrily tweeting about how people are overreacting to this broken play dunk.
All right, we're gonna have to call out our friend Chris here. I wasn't at that game. I was watching on TV. And 3 minutes in the game, he tweeted, "This already feels better than last season. This is the first game
of last year."
Yeah. And on that play, the chat was like, "Oh hell yeah!" And I just guys.
Is it Lemoyne? Were we playing Lemoyne?
Yeah, it was the school that had just started Division I basketball that day.
Hey,
with Coach Jamie Young. Does he come from Lemoyne?
Yeah, he did come from Lemoyne.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And it was like a broken play where we've talked about like Nana drop kicked the kid. I'm like,
everybody slid way too late.
These guys can't run. Like we're watching. This is like watching Todd. This is watching children's soccer.
Yeah.
The vibes were high though. That people were just so desperate for like, oh, it was a one-off last year, like top transfer team.
We wanted to believe in something.
Yeah. And when you see your transfers diving on the ground first game of the year, you're like, okay, this reminds me of something I'm familiar with.
Imagine if we didn't blow one of those games before we went to Atlantis, because obviously the vibes were high for Atlantis, which was fail. But because we blew games, people were like still kind of timid. What if we were undefeated going to Atlantis? It would have felt like the biggest bottom falling out ever, where like you were a little bit ready for it after Atlantis, like before we lost.
Yeah.
But if we had gone to Atlantis, came out of Atlantis undefeated, people wouldn't have known what happened. Like they would have been like, you got food poisoning, like something's happening. These are bots.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that happened. I should have rooted for that. That was short-sighted of me.
So, yeah, I'll accept your Brickus nomination. Right. He's been connecting on some bombs lately.
He's been scoring again.
Yeah, which again, thank you. Needed it all year, but thank you.
Tomorrow's going to be the day. They're all going to be clicking. We're going to have 20
except
points.
Except Eric. Yeah, well, that was the funny thing about the Butler game. Like, I don't think, did our bench even score? Did the starters just put up 80?
Let me triple check that.
At one point, we had
Bocce had 10.
Perkins
he's not
had
bench.
2
He's
points.
not bench. Yeah,
Perkins had 2 points. We had 2 bench points in an 80-point game. It helps when Eric has 34, obviously, but so you guys, shout out to Bocce. He put 10 in and
a season high for him, I believe.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Minutes. 5 for 5.
Didn't miss a shot. Like, did exactly what he needed to do.
Yeah. Alpha Dog, I think, has to go to Eric.
It's Eric. You know. I mean, he scored half of our points versus Seton Hall. Just like
and was 6 away from scoring half our points in in this one. So that is how many did he? And he only took 2 free throws in that game. That's crazy.
Because he's really good at getting. That is wild. I have a buddy of mine who, watches the basketball team, but like casually, passively. And he texted me during, I think, the Seton Hall game, and was like, "Eric Dixon's the leading scorer in the nation," and I was like, "Yeah, like he's really good at scoring the basketball."
They kept saying how Holloway was like, "Yeah, we'll let him. We're okay with Eric getting 20 on 20 shots." He had 32 on 17 shots.
Also, it's also like, if you can stop Eric, you stop us.
Yeah,
basically. So like,
that's
what I would do. Yeah. And obviously, easier said
20
than
points.
Yeah, easier said than done with stopping Eric. But like, that's what I would focus on. Is not let the guy who could score 60% of the team's points over a 2-game stretch.
Yeah. So, Eric continues to be the alpha until he isn't. Which will probably be in, the BYU game next year when he is no longer on the team. I don't think they're writing any new rules for him to come back. But so let me see.
While you think about the next one, I'm looking up to see what else Eric might be close to leading us in. If there's anything else, like I was thinking about free throws, and I'm trying to see if we have a list.
Does somebody track percentages?
Right? Like,
are you talking like career percentage or
total
number of free throws?
Okay, he's not even close for.
I was gonna say no.
He's at 458. He's at 458. Jason Lawson, that's at 497, and he's 7th at 458. Bob Schaefer, 642 free throws. Scotty Reynolds, 631. Pannone 630, Pinckney 591, Javon Pixton 567. So Eric's not close. But I just thought about how good he was at going in the line. I was like, is he close to that? Not close.
Yeah. I would imagine that this is one of his, like, this is a down year for him in terms of getting to the line just because of how much he's been playing on the perimeter.
Okay, so this one only has stats from 2003. but for offensive rebounds, he's 11 behind Dante Cunningham.
Played a lot of games.
Yeah. So that's he probably needs to play offensive rebounds is tough. He probably needs to play 3 or 4 to get that one. But yeah, I'm just looking right now. That's interesting.
Yeah. So Georgetown, we're expecting Eric to put up 30 in a win, or 22 in a win.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully, we lost.
Yeah,
to them,
like,
so
we lost to them. They're without their star freshman. They're on a skid. I know it's at Georgetown. There's no indication that the crowd will be crazy just because it's Georgetown still. I think there were 18 people in the stands for their senior night. But obviously, you lose this game. Hello, Crown Invite.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how jumbled the Big East standings are right now. If then we slip to a different tournament game to start.
Oh, you mean so if we fall,
like, I don't know if we then fall to like 7th after that.
In theory,
I don't have it up in front of me.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the Big East standings. Give me a second. We are 11-8 in conference, I believe. Yes. We are 11-8 in conference. No one else is close.
Okay.
So we're fine. Georgetown's 7-11, so we can lose and we're still top. Yeah, so we will.
Gotcha. So we're
at the very
playing
least we're going to the Crown. Yeah.
All right.
We are so fucking bad on the road. I keep every time I see that I have.
They're going to say against quad 1 opponents or quad 2 opponents or maybe quad 3 opponents. Because had issues with that this year too.
You think they just like party or too much or something? Like,
yeah, they're no longer sequestering at the hotel; they're just out.
Yeah. Well,
when I coached like high-end travel hockey, we had the opposite problem. If our kids slept at home that night or went to school, we had a home game. We were horrendous. And if we were on the road in a hotel where there's nothing to do, we were awesome. And I'd be like, I'd rather never play at home because these kids have friends.
You go around, you take their iPads away and make them lock in. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'd be like, they go to Chipotle with their friends after school. It's ridiculous.
There's no focus anymore. The youth is done.
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to do a little mailbox?
Yeah, we had Willie sent out a couple tweets asking for questions that you would like addressed on tonight's episode. He shared a couple of them in the chat.
I got them pulled up, so I'll add. There's 2 that are the same, basically. One is I'm gonna just call it by Jason Sprinkle. It's time to move on from Kyle Neptune and the current staff. So the question is, who are the candidates that can restore this program to its former glory? And then the other one that I put in the chat is who should be the next coach when Neptune gets fired after missing the tourney 3 years in a row. So obviously we've kind of talked about the some of the names. We're going to dive deeper into that probably when we start hearing more of these names that come up. But if you had a magic wand, who are you pulling?
Well, Jay Wright, but
be reasonable.
If I had magical powers, he never would have retired in the first place. But yeah, this is a weird one again, just because like there's no noise about anybody being linked. Like as far as Curry Hicks knows, the last I listened, at least, like there's no rumors or static or anything about the availability of the job to begin with. So that inherently makes it tricky to attach names to it. But again, when we last talked about this, you kind of have to rule out most of the SEC. You have to rule out most of the Big Ten. Nobody's really jumping from that kind of football money that's coming into those schools. So you look at like lower level ACC that's had some success, but there's not really much success in the ACC the last couple of years. This is my long-winded way of saying I have no idea. Mitch Henderson gets thrown around. We do a lot of that throwing. A name that I believe came up on the Trilly Discord today was Chris Collins.
That would be my number one. And like outside of the Discord, that would be the number one I have. For anyone unfamiliar with Chris Collins, he is the son of Doug Collins. Doug Collins, who has been a former Sixers coach and player.
He was a assistant on Team USA basketball.
Assistant on Team USA. Chris went to Duke, so doesn't have like ties to Philly per se, besides like loose ones. But he has been the head coach at Northwestern for about a decade, I think 2013, coming out of Duke. If Duke were to ever open up, I'm sure maybe they called him, but at this stage, they seem fine with Shire. They're going to be a 1 seed, so going to keep rolling. But he's taken Northwestern, who has been a historically poo-poo platter program, and made them had a couple more respectable years.
They were the last team, like high major team, to not win a tournament game, correct?
Yes, of high major, yes.
Yeah. So when you say historically bad, like high major team and never won a game in the NCAA tournament.
And then he changed that in 2016. I believe they actually beat Seton Hall. Am I making that up? They may have beaten Seton Hall, yeah.
A lot of people beat Seton Hall, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it was Seton Hall that they beat. No, Vanderbilt, sorry. And then they lost to Gonzaga. And then they've made the tournament the last 2 seasons. Doesn't look like they're going to make it this year, but overall, he's a very good X's and O's coach. Has gotten a lot out of like Northwestern players. I think I've seen Northwestern play like 2 or 3 times live, just randomly when they come just random times. I've always
you were in the building.
I was in the building. I've had boots on the ground.
Like we had for DePaul this year, we had a soldier in the building.
Exactly. We'll pass that one. So overall, like I think he would probably be my of what I think is realistic. Where Northwestern, yes, there's football money, but it's like different. They have a great athletic director. You know, it's a trade. We've sent Mark Jackson and a first-round pick. They give us Chris Collins.
Player to be named later.
And a player to be named later. Yep. Exactly. Yep.
Wheeling and dealing, Father Peter.
Yep. You know,
cash considerations and
the 3 best owners or GMs in sports are Howie Roseman, Father Peter, and Nico Harrison. So
if Howie Roseman is able to get,
and 2 out of those 3 are in Philadelphia.
If Howie Roseman's able to get Myles Garrett in the draft, like my friend that's a reporter tweeted, that would be crazy.
Able to go back in time and draft him. Yes.
Willie's response is, "Did he lie?" Has been all week. I was like, "You're right. It would be impressive if Howie Roseman would draft Myles Garrett."
Yeah. I tend to agree with you there, Willie. You know, and I think Chris Collins is kind of a mix of that. You want the established and experienced guy, but the up and comer at the same time. Like
he's 50. You got 15 years out of him.
Yeah. You know, he's young. He's young enough that, but he still has the track record. You know, I don't. Again, like it's weird trying to think. You say, okay, in a perfect world, I get this person, but you know, Bill Self isn't walking through that door. Like, you know, not that
Kansas isn't having that great a year.
So, I know, but yeah, that
would be hilarious.
God. Yeah, so it's interesting. Like some of the guys that you would want are like Tony Bennett out of college basketball, Mark Few not going to leave Gonzaga for anything. The guys that you would want on a hypothetical list like this in the last 5 years are gone, and
I think the other thing to call out with it is like it's kind of an interesting time in college basketball, in my opinion, where there is
what's happening.
There is an old guard of people who have titles, and like I'll throw Mark Few in there, and the old guard of like just people who have been there, have done that on their names, and a lot of the other people at these other schools are lesser names that are still looking to prove themselves. Like if you're looking at like, you know, Florida, who's like literally a top 4 team in the country, is led by Todd Golden, who hasn't done anything yet, but Todd Golden spent time at, I believe it was San Francisco, not San Francisco. Francisco.
That's a fun word to say.
San Francisco.
Never too late for a Buddy the Elf reference.
But like I think about like you have your Todd Goldens, you have trying to think of who else. I mean, Nate Oates, even though he had some success at Buffalo, has been great at Alabama, still hasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, he got to a Final Four, so he's getting there. TJ Otzelberger. Who the heck? Mark Pope. Like, there's a lot of young coaches at power programs who have not done anything yet. So it's this weird level of like, wait, who are we going to go poach? There's young guys at all these programs right now because college basketball's in that.
They're not leaving any of these places for Villanova.
Yes, of course. But like, they're just like, we're in this transitionary stage. And then anybody that is older, it's like, okay, well, one, Rick Barnes isn't leaving Tennessee for Villanova, but like also he's older. Do you really want him? So you're trying to fit the middle there. Like someone like Clemson coach Brad Burnell.
Do you think Ed Cooley would leave Georgetown?
I think he'd do anything, honestly.
I can see him going
for a conference rival.
He'd look good in orange at Clemson, so I think that'd be a good place for him to go.
You didn't ask me. You didn't ask me what coach I wanted.
Oh, so
I want Inglesby from Delaware.
Okay, keeping it in the family.
I met
family-ish.
him. I met him. He was nice to me, and he said, "I should listen to your podcast." And I was like, "No."
Martin, if you're listening, you're welcome on. Welcome on.
I'm talking to him, and it was nice. And we had beaten Delaware that year in the tournament. And I was like, "Oh, you gave us a good game." He's like, "Not really." And we crushed them.
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, like going into half." He's like, "Yeah, it was 10 points, but were you worried as a Nova fan?" I was like, like he was just
you never know what the artist was going to do.
Yeah, he was just like, it wasn't. We weren't right there.
Dylan Painter had us right where he wanted us.
He hit that first three.
Oh, he hit that three. He was. And I'm glad he had that moment of just being like.
I think he finished with 6 points.
Yeah.
Love you, Dylan Painter.
Like I think the kid who played well was the Carr kid.
Oh yeah, Andrew Carr played.
He had a really good game against him.
Jameer Nelson's son, wasn't he on that team?
He was on that team.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so that was a fun little coach talk. One of the other questions that I kind of liked, this one came from a Yukon Johnskis, which I think is actually a very interesting question for us, is what's so different about this season versus last? Weren't the guys last year more talented on paper, but there's better results now? I actually thought this was a really good question.
Great question. I agree.
Couple things with that. The Big East stinks again. So that's why we have more conference wins. And like the teams that were untouchable last year, Marquette, UConn, Creighton to an extent, are all very, it's any given night. We say that not in a good way that like, oh, this conference is stacked. Anybody can lose any night. It's like, no, this conference is so bad that anybody can lose on any night. So I think that's part of it for me. We had a better non-conference last year, correct?
Yeah.
It would hard to have a worse one than we did this year.
Yeah. We won the Bahamas,
Yeah, we won the battle for Atlantis. We beat multiple top 20 teams en route to a championship. Not everybody can do that. But I don't know. I think the league, like I said, I think it was a down year for the league, and we were able to capitalize on having a 24-year-old Eric Dixon who was a 40% three-point shooter for the entire year and like started the year at like 50%. So, that is going to equal wins. We had a couple games that we probably shouldn't have won. And just like we had a couple games that we probably shouldn't have lost. So a lot of dice rolls. So it could have been much worse.
I think so. When I look at the difference between this season and last, I think last season we hit more in the median of where on this side we were more on. There were games that we had no business losing, Columbia, UVA, that we lost, and then we also had games like Marquette, St. John's, UConn that like we hadn't won in previous years. So we're more volatile than I would say we were last year. But I do think last year's team was and is better on paper.
Definitely better defensively.
Yeah. But this team's had better results because the dice rolls have kind of gone in our way with the more high-profile games more, which have made people forget about the low-profile games, which are frankly why we're not going to be in the tournament because of those low-profile losses. That's why.
Yeah.
Because of the Xavier isn't a bad loss, but like the blowing the Xavier game, blowing Georgetown, Columbia, UVA.
Maryland would have helped.
Maryland would have been a great win to have that we kind of just like putzed away.
St. Joe's.
St. Joe's.
We lost to the whole Big Five last year.
Yeah.
St. Joe's. The comment section pointed out the point guard play has been better this year too.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, is a good point.
To an extent, I think we're getting a little bit of rose-colored glasses. Like, I don't think Mark was turning the ball over as much as Brickus has been.
I don't think we're unhappy with Mark, honestly, as a fan base till he decided to leave.
And I don't even want to say just Mark, like the committee, we were kind of point guard by committee again last year too. I understand that Brickus is a better setup man than anybody that was on the team last year, but again, he's on the bench down the stretch in a lot of these games, and Perkins is the one on the floor closing them out.
How about the announcer on Saturday said that Brickus is more of a scoring guard than a facilitator? And
I think I'm trying to give Brando the benefit of the doubt there that he misspoke.
I was just like, if you're not watching the game, you might think that.
I don't know. I kind of agree with that. I think it is. I do think Brickus.
It's definitely a point to be made, but
the other thing I want to say is the other transfer is honestly having Bashi and letting Eric play a bit more of the 4. I think has made the offense a little bit more like dynamic.
You said I'm laughing because I just checked the comments and you said, "Oh, a listener." It was Chris said point guard play.
That's some low life in the comments.
I didn't
hear low life. I just heard
some guy in the comments,
and I went to the comments and I saw it was Chris, but I didn't hear low life.
No, I figured with me being so mean to a listener, you would have.
I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it.
I thought Willie was, without knowing Chris was here, was going to be like the floor of this year's ceiling was lower because that was a big Chris thing, floors and ceilings. And I was like, please hit me with the floor to the ceiling.
No floor to ceiling.
But yeah, the guard play helps. We kind of were worried about the backup all year, and honestly, Longino's been doing better than I ever could have expected.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, he's been fine.
Yeah, it's been completely fine.
But again, we're having high turnover games, especially late into Big East conference play.
And late into games, we don't turn over in the first half, we turn over in the second half.
Yeah.
Like, the pressure's
so, I don't want to trick myself into thinking, oh my God, Mark did a fine job. He just wasn't a setup man as much as Brickus was.
Like, I'm gonna you ever played like one of those like dice games where it's like 1 through 5 is a forced loss. 5 through 15 is a simulation, and then like 16 to 20 is like a forced win. You do it when you're like playing any
no idea what you're talking about.
Kind of board game. Essentially, what I'm getting at is if we're thinking about us rolling a dice, like a 20-sided die.
Those aren't real.
Whatever, Brian. if the previous season we were rolling more in that like, hey, it's a toss up of what's going to happen, who's going to show up. This year, it's been much more of like we're hitting either spectrum of, hey, we're going to have a shit game or we're going to win. Okay. And like we're going to get up because we've gotten up for more games than we ever have and like completed games this season than we have in the last 2 years. Like we just that's a fact. But then we've also embarrassed ourselves the last 2 seasons.
I was going to say there's been plenty of embarrassment over the last.
So it's more of but it's more. There's been more positive.
Defeated at the at Phil Knight's birthday. The Oregon tournament, the PK85 thing.
I forgot about that.
Completely defeated. Lost to a team that was playing like walk-ons against us because everybody got sick or something. We lost we finished 6th in the Big 5 last year. And then this year you got the losses to St. Joe's, Columbia. Like I haven't been paying as much attention to St. Joe's after that game, but like I would have assumed that they were knocking on the door of an at-large, but no, they're like they're like fighting for their lives just like we are, and need to win the A10 to make it to the tournament.
Well, that's what I think. Last week you mentioned you mentioned something about Billy Lang not being on the hot seat. I was like, no, he certainly is.
He wasn't he was up until the Nova game, which I know was the 4th game of the year.
I mean, they have a fantastic
was back on.
win.
Yeah,
St. Joe's beat Texas Tech, and Texas Tech is going to be like worst case a 3 seed.
Yeah.
Like, they have a great win.
Yeah.
But like you play 30 games, you can't be like, I had a good win.
No, yeah, of course, yeah.
The win I had.
You can't, Brian. You want to see it happen. Luckily, we beat 3 top 20 teams this year, so you're not doing just that one game.
That's true.
But
Villanova has 3 wins.
Yes.
And then the last question I want to hit, and this one I think is just more of like a philosophical one, kind of like what do we think? Following the news of FSU and Clemson's settlement with the ACC, what do you think of Villanova and Georgetown in basketball, along with UConn, Tulane, USF in football and basketball to the ACC in 2030? Will it be predominantly private school league at that point? Maybe upgrade football later. The general question I want to think about this is: do we think of a merge of a what do we think of an ACC Big East merge? We'll kind of start there.
I would want to keep the Big East name.
Okay.
I would be disgusted at the proposition of playing in the ACC. I would much rather, we did the Catholic 7 thing and kept, even though the Big East, we got to keep the name. So I want to keep the name in any merger or divorce that happens.
What about the back, the Big Atlantic Coast Conference? Does that work?
Maybe. You should pitch that
the big back
to Val Ackerman.
Yeah.
But I would, my ideal situation.
There's something there.
So, and I saw like a mega Big East basketball thing yesterday when we basically like it's reversed. Like we absorb the ACC and then have an East versus and West region of the conference, and I would assume that you do, a round robin in your region, and then you play like one-offs every other year, probably with the opposite division. But in my perfect world with conferences and football and TV, is that they just separate college football from everything else. Just have the big time college football go and make their mega conference and leave all the other Olympic and Olympic sports
basketball
alone.
Be the pivot point
for basketball else. Yes, have your basketball and your Olympic sport. It was when UConn was in the American, we were still playing them in like field hockey. There were certain sports that stayed Big East sports for them, I think. And I would rather football just get out of the way and stop trying to ruin basketball. Because why is UCLA flying to Minnesota for a conference game? It's just
to freaking Piscataway.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets worse.
There's no reason Lauren Betts should be playing in Piscataway.
So I don't know. Keeping UConn, Tulane and USF, I have no care in the world for them.
I mean, that's like definitely to appease the football gods, which I don't know how much that really appease. I
was gonna say they're in the they're playing in the they're playing Navy and Army and Eastern Carolina in football. They're not exactly putting up crazy numbers.
Tulane is interesting though, because if you're the ACC, whatever this combined conference is, because you get the New Orleans market,
right?
And then I know it's not the biggest market in the world, but it is still
Louisiana is a growing and emerging state.
Watch it, bro. There's parts of Louisiana that my friends would live in.
And then USF, you have Tampa as well. So and St. Pete. So you get those markets.
Tampa and St. Pete are just a bunch of Penn State transplants.
That's even better. You just get them to start watching the games too.
They're
going to watch their games.
They get brainwashed easily. People like that.
Okay.
Anyway, I don't love it. Is my bottom line answer. I want to keep
it's a football decision affecting basketball. That's just
because next thing you know, we're playing a conference tournament in Greensboro,
which it should always be in Greensboro. Let's be very
right.
clear.
But we should always be at MSG.
Yeah. So that lease ends and they send us to
Barclays
or the new Dunk, the Providence AI generated.
Or the Cathedral,
which would be sick if that was real.
I mean, that priest is just trying to lure people into that building. That's not a real building. He's like, come check out this basketball thing I have.
Yeah, somebody took the nickname for the Palestra being the Cathedral of College Basketball and had AI come up with a rendering of a basically if you
were playing in a gargoyle-filled building
church. If you were playing in a church that was big enough to have 8,000 people in a basketball court.
Which kind of is just Cameron
so maybe
Stadium.
A church in Texas, like one of those mega churches, but just with more gargoyles.
Yeah. Gargoyles are important in a lot of things, though.
Yeah. That was a great show.
Stained glass windows.
Was it a good show?
Yeah.
Oh,
when I was a cart child, but yeah.
Sharks was good then too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Anyway, do we have any more questions to touch on?
I think that's a good amount.
No, we will not be at the Georgetown game tomorrow, unless I don't know, Willie. Are you feeling a red-eye flight?
I'm okay.
Yeah, I won't
gotta
be there.
in DC the next day, so I can't go early.
Yeah.
I will be at a UC San Diego game because
cool. That's the Georgetown game. That's what I asked.
Yeah. Jesus.
No, enjoy your basketball games.
They're playing Long Beach State.
Nice.
It'd be cool if they're playing Long Beach Poly.
Would be cool.
Yeah, it's a high school, so
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else then.
Cool.
We will be back next week.
With another special guest.
With another special guest. This one we're expecting on the
Yeah. Brian was a surprise special guest tonight. But we will have another and maybe Brian will surprise us again. Who knows?
We'll be talking about the Big East tournament. We will know what's shaking out there. By Monday, I think they have the first teams out, or like the all Big.
I think the whole thing's set.
No, sorry, the Big East all Big East first team. Yeah, I think that's out.
I did hear that there's supposed to be good weather. Will that affect the Big East tournament?
I think the mood's going to be like really
vibes
high. So
I don't know. MSG.
In fairness to that question, have you seen the throwback to the Super Bowl media day from 2018 when they're interviewing Alshon Jeffrey and they're like, "Pretty cold out. What do you think about the weather in Minnesota this week?" He's like, "Game's inside."
Yeah.
But if it was outside, we wouldn't play the Super Bowl in a place that cold.
He was like, "We should have just stayed in Philly till Saturday."
Anyway,
that was
great interview.
That was good.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's everything. We will see you guys next week. And as always, let's go Nova.